I was sitting in my office downtown, deep in a property development deal that could have made or broken my year, when my phone rang. The caller ID flashed Cassie, my wife. I froze. She never called during the day, unless it was about the kids or something urgent. I figured it was car trouble or a school event, maybe a minor emergency. I picked up. Hello? Her voice was flat, like she'd rehearsed it. Ryan, I want a divorce. That was it. 13 years, gone in one sentence. I felt like the floor had dropped out beneath me. Wait, what? I said, trying to process it. Are you serious? She didn't hesitate. I'm serious. I've already moved out. Took what I needed. My lawyer, Marla Bloom, will be in touch. I couldn't say anything at first. I just sat there, staring out my office window, holding the phone like it might explain why this was happening. Then she hit me with it. You've changed. It's not working anymore. No discussion, no warning, no fight, just done. And before I could get another word out, she hung up. I sat there, dumbfounded, just numb. The call ended, but the damage, that wasn't going away anytime soon. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at my office phone, but I eventually got up and left. I had to go home. I had to see for myself what was really happening. When I walked in the front door, it hit me. The house felt wrong, quiet, empty. Cassie's side of the closet was half gone. Shirts, shoes, even the hangers. The jewelry box on her dresser was cleaned out. Just a couple of cheap pieces left behind. Her laptop, gone. No note, no explanation, nothing. I stood there for a second, the reality of it all sinking in. I didn't want to believe it, but it was right in front of me. She was gone, and I was left to figure out what the hell had just happened. I tried not to panic. I logged into our bank accounts just to check, and that's when I found them. Strange charges, hotel rooms downtown, jewelry stores, spa visits. I felt my blood go cold. She told me those nights away were girls' dinners or yoga retreats, but the charges didn't lie. I knew something wasn't adding up. I grabbed my phone and checked the cell bill. I didn't even know what I was looking for at first, but then I saw it. A second line, a number I didn't recognize, one that had racked up hundreds of calls and texts over the last 5 months. 5 months. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I could feel my throat tighten. I should have felt crushed, but I didn't. Not yet. Not until I pieced it all together. That night, after I had turned the house upside down and felt my gut twist with every new piece of evidence, I went to the safe. It was a small, nondescript thing, hidden in the back of my closet. I had only ever opened it for important documents, tax papers, insurance stuff, that kind of thing. But tonight, it held something else, the prenup. Cassie had insisted on it when we got married. Her father, big in real estate, thought I was just some HVAC guy. Back then I was just getting started, but I'd already begun working toward running my own contracting business. She worried I wouldn't go anywhere in life, that I'd hold her back. At the time, I didn't care. I just wanted to marry her. But I wasn't stupid. I'd signed it, sure, but I'd also had it looked over. You never know what might happen down the road, right? I pulled the file out now, flicked through the pages until I found what I was looking for, the infidelity clause. It was a tight one. If she cheated, I was entitled to 50% of the shared assets, including the house. The clause had been buried in the middle, small print that most people wouldn't think twice about, but it was there. I reread it, my eyes scanning the words again, just to make sure. Yep. Ironclad. The kind of thing you'd have to be an idiot to overlook. I sat there for a while, holding it in my hands, feeling a kind of satisfaction I hadn't expected. Cassie had probably thought I wouldn't ever use it. Maybe she assumed I'd never figure it out, or that I'd just roll over when it came time for the divorce. Or maybe her lawyer missed it entirely. Either way, it didn't matter now. I had what I needed. I grabbed my phone, called up an old buddy from high school, Chris, a lawyer now, specializing in family law. We'd kept in touch over the years, but mostly just through the occasional text. He picked up on the third ring. Yo, what's up? His voice was casual, but I could hear the faint edge of curiosity. Got a favor to ask, I said, my voice steady, even though my insides were still wound tight. Need you to take a look at something for me. Sure, man. What's going on? I explained the situation as best I could, the whole mess with Cassie. He listened quietly, asking a few questions now and then. And when I finished, he didn't hesitate. All right, he said, a grin creeping into his voice. Send me the papers. You've got something here. Looks like your ex is about to learn the hard way what happens when you underestimate the quiet guy. I felt a jolt of satisfaction, a rush of adrenaline. He was right. This wasn't over. I wasn't about to let Cassie walk away with everything after what she'd done. No way in hell. I sent him everything. Bank statements, phone records, the prenup, and waited for his reply. It wasn't long before I got a message back. Let's get this done. You've got a solid case. We'll hit her hard with this. I stared at the screen for a moment, the weight of it all sinking in. Cassie might have thought she'd already won, that I'd just take whatever she threw at me. But she was wrong. I had something better than anger now. I had leverage. 2 hours later, I was sitting at my desk when her lawyer called. His voice was shaky, like he wasn't sure whether I was about to blow up on him or not. Mr. Dell, this is Roger Greenfield. I'm calling about the settlement offer we sent over. I leaned back in my chair, tapping my pen against the desk. Yeah, I saw it. Your client keeps the house and cars, and I pay monthly support, right? That's correct. It's a fair offer under the circumstances. I let out a short laugh. Tell your client to reread Clause 17B. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I could practically hear his mind racing. Finally, he cleared his throat. You're enforcing the prenup? I didn't hesitate. Your client cheated. I've got proof. There was a pause, a long one. Then he mumbled something about getting back to me soon and hung up. I sat there for a minute, letting the power of it settle in. I wasn't just fighting for my share anymore. I was making sure Cassie knew she couldn't just walk away from this like she was in control. An hour later, Cassie showed up at my office unannounced. I hadn't seen her since the call. I didn't know what I expected. Maybe anger, maybe guilt. But she was all business, calm, her face unreadable. Hi, she said, standing in the doorway. I didn't move, just gestured for her to sit. You got something to say? She took a breath, then eased herself into the chair across from me. Her eyes flickered around the office, like she was trying to find something familiar in the space, something safe. We need to talk, she started. We've both been through a lot, but this isn't the way to handle things. I mean, we just grew apart, Ryan. I worked too much. You stopped being present. The romance died. I don't know when it happened, but it did. I didn't say anything at first. I just looked at her, trying to gauge if she was genuinely remorseful or just trying to sell me another version of the story. Is that so? I finally asked, my voice low. Yeah, she said, her eyes shifting away from mine. And I don't know what happened, but I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't want things to get this ugly. I reached for the prenup and slid it across the table toward her. The papers slid into place with a sharp sound, like they were calling out her bullshit. Then I pushed the credit card statements over, and the phone logs, all of it. She stared at the pile, at the evidence. I watched her carefully. Her hands twitched a little. She didn't touch the papers, just stared. Her face flushed, and for a moment, I thought she might say something, maybe apologize, but she didn't. Instead, she took a shaky breath and said, You wouldn't. I kept my eyes on hers. I will. There was no hesitation in my voice, no doubt. I meant it, and she knew I meant it. We sat in silence for a long moment. She didn't move, didn't say anything else. Her eyes flickered from the papers back to me, like she was still trying to figure out what kind of man I'd become, what kind of man she'd underestimated. She had thought I was weak, thought I wouldn't fight, but now she was staring at the man who was going to take everything she thought she owned, the man who wasn't just done, he was finished, and she'd made sure of it. A week after Cassie showed up at my office, I was sitting at home, scrolling through my phone, when a message popped up on Facebook. It was from a name I didn't recognize. Jessie. We need to talk. I didn't know she was still married. I stared at the message for a second, wondering if it was some kind of prank or just another idiot trying to get in my head. But I opened it anyway. Jessie was 27, a bartender at some rooftop bar in the city. He said Cassie had told him they were separated and that I was emotionally abusive. He claimed I made her feel invisible, that I was a ghost in the house, too busy with work to care about her. And somehow, he bought it. The worst part, he wasn't even ashamed. He sent me screenshots of their texts, some selfies of her laughing, all cozy in a bar. There was one of her holding a glass of wine, her hand resting on his arm. He even sent me a receipt for a watch she'd bought him. I leaned back in my chair, the anger simmering in my chest, but I kept my cool. He was just another pawn in her game, a distraction, a side piece she never planned on me finding out about. But now he was giving me everything I needed to bury her settlement offer. I didn't respond immediately. I didn't need to. Instead, I screenshot everything he sent, saved the receipts, and let it all sink in. Cassie had no idea that the guy she'd been playing her little story on was feeding me the ammo I needed to destroy her. I didn't reply to Jesse's message. I didn't need to. I had everything. Proof that she'd lied about being separated, proof of her betrayal, and proof of her trying to paint me as the bad guy. The story she'd been spinning, I was about to rewrite it. My lawyer filed the enforcement paperwork the next day. We requested the house, 50% of Cassie's inheritance spent during our marriage, and full business protection. It wasn't exactly what the prenup had promised, but it was close enough, and it was a hell of a lot more than she had planned on getting. And then, word got out. The whispers started. The family started calling, her parents, her friends, the ones who'd always looked down on me. The handyman who married up, they'd say, like I was some kind of joke. They didn't know what had been going on behind closed doors. They just knew they didn't like me, never had. And now they had a reason to rally behind her. It all came to a head at our niece's birthday party that weekend. Cassie wasn't there. I'm sure she had some excuse, something about needing space or family stuff, but I didn't care enough to ask. I tried to keep my distance from her side of the family, but her sister Rachel was having none of it. She cornered me by the cake table, her face tight with anger. "Ryan," she said, her voice low, "what the hell are you doing? You're tearing this family apart. This isn't you." I felt my jaw tighten. The nerve of her, the nerve of all of them, thinking they knew what was going on. I took a slow breath and looked her dead in the eye. "No," I said, my voice steady. "Your sister did that when she cheated." Rachel went pale, her mouth opening and closing, like she was trying to come up with something, anything to say, but she couldn't. I could see the shock in her eyes, the disbelief that I was standing there, calm, telling the truth. Cassie's lies had started to unravel, and no one knew how to handle it. I didn't wait for her response. I turned on my heel and walked out of the party. The door slammed behind me, and I didn't look back. Later that night, I got a message from Cassie. Her name popped up on my screen, and for a second, I thought about just ignoring it. But I opened it anyway. "Please," she wrote, "let's talk privately. We don't have to destroy each other." I stared at the message for a long moment, my thumb hovering over the screen. I could have responded, could have tried to have some calm, rational conversation, but I knew what she wanted. She wanted to soften me up, make me think she regretted what she'd done, make me feel sorry for her. But I wasn't buying it. I didn't owe her anything anymore. I didn't even owe her a response. I hit the block button and put my phone down. There was nothing left to say. Cassie's lawyer came back with a new offer a few days later. It was a little better than the first one, closer to fair, but still missing the key detail, the business valuation. Without that, the offer was worthless. My lawyer and I rejected it, no questions asked, and set a date for mediation. The day came, and I walked into the room with a calm I didn't expect. Cassie was already there when I arrived. She looked different, nervous, like the weight of everything had finally hit her. No makeup, no perfect hair, no polished smirk. She just looked human. And I almost felt sorry for her, but I didn't. Her lawyer, Roger, was there too, looking like a man who knew he'd lost before he even stepped in. He kept glancing at Cassie like she might suddenly explode, and I knew that wasn't a good sign for her. The mediator, an older guy with silver hair and a calm demeanor, looked at us, then at the papers in front of him. He cleared his throat. "All right, let's get started. Do you both want to speak privately before we begin?" I didn't hesitate. "No, everything goes on the record." Cassie looked at me, her eyes flicking to the papers in front of her, like she was trying to gauge my next move. I could see the nervousness creeping in, and I didn't care. I leaned forward and started laying everything out. The assets, the evidence, the clause in the prenup, the timeline. I went through it all step by step. The charges on the credit card, the phone logs, the dates, the hotel rooms, the lies she'd told, how long she'd been seeing Jesse, how it all fit into the timeline she thought I wouldn't notice. Cassie sat there, her hands trembling in her lap, looking at the papers like they were a foreign language. Her lawyer was getting redder by the second, sweat dotting his forehead as he tried to write everything down. Finally, Cassie spoke. She tried to sound confident, but her voice shook. I don't know what you want me to say. I'm confused." I was unhappy. I felt neglected. She wiped at her eyes like she might start crying. I didn't know what else to do. I stared at her for a moment. No more bullshit. No more pretending. You could have talked to me, I said, my voice colder than I meant it to be. Instead, you walked out like I was a rental you were done with. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Her face crumpled, and for the first time, I saw real emotion. She cried then, tears streaming down her face. She looked so damn small, so fragile, and part of me felt like I should comfort her, but I didn't. I couldn't. I didn't cry. I didn't need to. The truth was enough. By the end of mediation, Cassie agreed to terms that were closer to the prenup's full enforcement than I thought she would ever accept. I was keeping the house, and I was getting 50% of the assets, the business protection, and a fair share of the inheritance she'd spent during our marriage. It wasn't a victory for either of us, but it was justice. And it was done. As we walked out of the room, I didn't say a word to her. I didn't need to. What was left to say? She had made her choice, and now she had to live with it, just like I was going to live with the consequences of hers. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I'd settled into a rhythm. I kept the house, the business, and I walked away better off than Cassie probably expected. The prenup had worked in my favor, but it wasn't just that. I'd built something solid on my own. I'd always dreamed of having a boat, something to get away from the noise, the pressure, so I bought one. Cassie had always called it stupid when we were together, said it was a waste of money, but now it was mine, something for me. I'd take it out on the weekends, fish, maybe drink a beer by the water, get some space to think. It felt good. I also started coaching my son's baseball team. It wasn't a huge commitment, but it kept me busy, and I liked seeing him out there, getting better every practice. It was something we could do together. Cassie never really got involved in that stuff, always too busy with her own life, her own world. But now, I was the one showing up for him, and I didn't mind a bit. One afternoon, I ran into Cassie at the grocery store. She looked different, tired, older, the kind of tired that came from too many late nights and not enough sleep. Her hair was pulled back messily, and she was wearing sweatpants and an oversized hoodie, like she hadn't bothered to care much about what she looked like. She saw me before I saw her, and I could tell she didn't expect to run into me. I could almost hear the wheels in her head turning, like she wasn't sure if she should say something or just keep walking. But she didn't walk away. Instead, she gave me a weak smile. "Hey," she said, her voice low. "Hey," I replied, not sure what else to say. She looked uncomfortable, shifting from one foot to the other. I'm moving in with my cousin for a while. Just need some time to figure things out, you know?" I nodded. "Yeah, I get it." There was a pause. She seemed like she wanted to say more, but didn't know how. I didn't offer her anything. No sympathy, no anger, just silence. Finally, I picked up my cart, reached for the stuff I needed and said, "All right, take care of yourself." She nodded and muttered something, but I didn't catch it. I didn't need to. I wasn't about to pretend everything was okay between us. I wasn't going to gloat or make a scene. It wasn't worth it. I just paid for my groceries, walked out, and drove home. As for Jesse, she dumped him. I didn't know it at the time, but I found out through the grapevine that he was seeing someone else the whole time. Cassie never knew that. She'd thought she was the one getting the last laugh, but turns out life's funny like that. He wasn't the guy she thought he was. He wasn't anything like she'd built him up to be in her mind. I didn't feel sorry for her. I didn't even feel good about it. It was just the way things worked out. I'd moved on, and I had no room in my life for any more of her drama. That day in the grocery store felt like a chapter closing. I'd let go of all the anger, all the bitterness. Cassie had her own mess to figure out, but I was okay. Life was moving forward, and I was finally getting to live it on my own terms. 1 year to the day after Cassie's call, I found myself upstate, taking on a new project, remodeling a cabin. The owner was Amanda, a woman in her late 40s who'd been divorced a few years. She had 2 grown kids and ran an online art business, something creative that I couldn't even begin to understand but respected all the same. The first time I met her, we had coffee in her kitchen, talking about bad exes. I didn't expect it to go anywhere, just a casual chat between contractor and client, but we hit it off. She was smart, funny, and had a way of making you feel comfortable right off the bat. She'd been through her own shit, no different than me, but she didn't wear it like a badge of honor. It was just part of her story. We took things slow at first. Hikes in the woods, dinners at local diners, long conversations that went well beyond the surface. It was different than anything I'd experienced in a long time. She didn't care about what I made or what I wore. She didn't give a damn about any of the things Cassie used to care about. With Amanda, it was just easy. She didn't need anything from me. She wasn't trying to impress me or make me into someone I wasn't. One night, after we'd spent hours talking about everything from our kids to our worst relationships, she asked me something I hadn't really thought about in years. "What do you want out of life, Ryan?" The question caught me off guard. I'd never been asked that, at least not in a way that made me really stop and think. It wasn't something Cassie would have asked me. She'd been more focused on what she wanted, what I could do for her. But Amanda? She was different. She genuinely wanted to know. I thought about it for a minute, then told her the truth. I guess I just want peace. I want to know I can live life on my own terms, without all the bullshit, without having to make anyone else happy first. She didn't pity me. She didn't tell me everything would be okay or try to make me feel better. She just nodded, her eyes steady on mine. "Sounds like you found yourself the hard way." Yeah, that was about right. I had found myself the hard way. It wasn't easy, and it sure as hell wasn't the way I thought it would happen. But I'd gotten there. I was living my life again, the way I should have been all along. Amanda didn't have a perfect past, and neither did I. But it didn't matter. We weren't trying to fix each other. We were just here, together. It felt real. It felt like I was finally getting what I deserved. I couldn't say it at the time, but I knew then that this was a new chapter, not just for me, but for both of us. And for the first time in a long time, I was ready to see where it would take me. A year and a half after the divorce, my business got some attention. A regional magazine featured me in a piece titled, "From the Ground Up: How Local Contractor Ryan Dell Rebuilt More Than Homes." The photo they used was one of me standing in front of one of my new builds. Clean lines, solid woodwork, everything done right. It felt good to see it in print. Proof that I had made it, that all the hard work had paid off. I didn't think much of it at first, just another step forward. But a few days later, I noticed Cassie had liked the post on Facebook. I wasn't surprised. She'd been watching from the sidelines, just like everyone else. And then, like clockwork, she sent me a message. "Proud of what you've built. Hope you're well." I stared at the message for a while, wondering if I should even bother responding. In the past, I might have felt like I owed her something. Closure, maybe, or the satisfaction of a conversation. But not anymore. I wasn't bitter. I didn't even care enough to be angry. I just didn't owe her anything. Not a conversation, not a response, not a memory. So I didn't reply. I let her message sit there, unread, until I deleted it a few days later. Amanda and I were planning a trip to Colorado this fall, our first real vacation in years. I didn't think much about the past anymore. My kids were doing good, I was coaching their baseball teams, and my crew was steady. Business was better than it had ever been. I'd put in the work, rebuilt my life from the ground up, and now it was paying off. Sometimes, when I'm driving between job sites, I think back to that morning when Cassie called. I thought my life was ending. I had no idea how I'd move forward. But turns out, I didn't just move forward. I started again. And this time, I was building something that was mine. Something solid. Something I could be proud of. Life hadn't ended that day. It had just finally begun.